Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today is the 1st of January 2021, and I wanted to share some New Year's resolution advice with you and obviously for myself also. We know that 2020 was a hectic year for obvious reasons, and that many of us have battled to keep our jobs. Some of us are unemployed at the moment. Some of us are relying on government grants, stimulus checks as they call it in America. In some countries, third world countries, those are simply not available. And also, there's a general sense of, economic storms up ahead at a time when people are already in a lot of trouble financially. So there's a lot of uncertainty moving into 2021, and we sort of are not globally sure, which way things are going to go. I don't think anyone can be sure which way things will be going. And so in light of this sort of gloomy uncertainty that lies ahead, we as just mere individuals, regular folks, we're asking ourselves, what can we look forward to in this year? How should we structure this year? What should we be doing? And those are obviously very important questions, because one needs to have a goal in order to progress. One needs to have a goal. We sort of can't just float around day to day. Okay, that is a recipe for disaster. When you have a goal, you are able to set milestones or mini goals. In order to reach that, you can sort of keep a hold of yourself, keep a track of your progress, and you have a reason to get out of bed every day, or at least you feel like you have a reason to get out of bed every day. And so it's important for us to decide what that's going to be. Okay, and I have some ideas for myself which I want to share with you. And I want to start this with a story. Okay, I had a great grandfather, or rather the great grandfather of my wife's family, who lived to be 100, okay, 100 and something. I think he was 109 when he died. So that's pretty old. And the way he managed himself in his older years was to decide that he would pray his 5 daily prayers upstairs in his house while he lived downstairs. Okay? Which means that 5 times a day he would have to walk up the stairs to pray. And because the prayer was incredibly important for him, he would not obviously want to miss a single prayer. And so he would walk up that stairs every single day, and that kept him healthy. And why I'm starting with a story is because in this time of opportunistic viruses, diseases, that affect people increasingly who have underlying health conditions, it is important for us to, I think, step one for this year, to resolve to live healthier, to live a healthier lifestyle. Okay. Now, a healthier lifestyle is something that requires balance in all aspects of our lives. Okay, so we need a work-play balance. We need a balance in our diet. We need to have a balanced life in our relationships. And we need to have, last but most importantly, we need to have a balanced relationship with our religion, okay, with our spiritual lives, okay, whatever religion that is you might follow, or what spiritual tradition, there needs to be balance there too, okay. And so the first aspect I think we need to tackle because of the times we are in is health. Okay, so how to be healthy. Okay, that is the first question. And so the first thing I know to be the most important in this equation of health is to eat well. Okay, because you are what you eat. And there is no one sort of silver bullet for what is a healthy diet for you, because I don't know you. I don't know your genetic weaknesses or strengths or the region you historically come from. Because I mean, evidence suggests that, for example, if you come from a humid region of the earth where it was very humid, like say for example India, you come from India, your diet would be significantly, a healthy diet for you would be significantly different to someone who comes from a very cold region, let's say Britain, for example. Okay, and your diet might include a lot more vegetables or almost vegetarian, as opposed to someone who comes from a very cold region whose historical diet didn't involve much vegetables because they couldn't grow much, right? Or they didn't simply grow much, and they relied a lot on hunting and meat. So I can't tell you specifically what would be the best diet for you, okay? Because that would just be foolhardy. But what I can tell you is that what we do know for sure is that the more processed food is, the worse it is for your health, okay? So avoid processed foods. That's what I can say, okay? Refined sugars, processed sugars is not good for your health. Processed flour, highly processed white flour, bread and so on, it's not good for your health, okay? So avoid those. Candy bars, cakes, pastries, those are not generally not good for your health, okay? And then the most I can say regarding diet in a general generic sense is eat in moderation, okay? So have enough hours of not eating in the day. So that is also well known. Eat in moderation. So when you do eat, don't eat to your full. That is also the advice from our Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be on him. Don't eat yourself to a full. Okay, leave some space in your stomach for your food to properly digest and properly be processed, and your body to use up the nutrients efficiently. Okay, overeating is actually part of wasting. Okay, and knowing that we are in an economic downturn, knowing that we could be heading for food shortages and things like that, right? It's just plain sinful to waste food, that is to throw food away, and also to overeat. So don't overeat. Eat well, okay? Eat for your purposes, but don't overeat. So that is all I can say. Personally, what I found to be the healthiest for me in the many years of trying various diets has been intermittent fasting, where I would typically eat once a day, lunchtime, and then stay without food until the next lunchtime, and in between just drink like water, tea, coffee, and so on, and keep a low caloric intake. That worked well for me for a long time, but that's not for everyone, okay? So, I mean, if you are able to consult a professional, a dietitian, regarding what would be a good diet for you, do that if you can afford that. If you cannot, just as a rule of thumb, okay, cut out all the unnecessaries, the luxuries, the chips, the chocolates, and eat food, eat the normal food you eat, that you would eat, and then also have sufficient breaks in between, okay? 4, 5, 6 hours, even 6 hours, even 8 hours. The longer breaks you have in between, the more you give your body a chance to sort of restore, okay, itself. So that, guys, and then also stimulants, are generally not good. So too much coffee and alcohol, obviously, you should cut that out. Um, Anything that has an um, addictive aspect to it is generally not good for you. Okay, in moderation, yes, it might be okay. Drink lots of water. Drink lots of water. Okay, hydration is very, very important. A lot of people actually are not properly hydrated, and it's a major cause for a lot of um, uh, vulnerabilities in the immune system. Okay, so that's the first aspect of health and food. Eat right. Okay, the next aspect of health, and because we're making this year the theme of this year health. Okay, we're focusing on health. The next major aspect is that you sleep enough. Okay, so sleeping enough. What is enough? Again, enough is depends on your needs as an individual, and I cannot know what that is. Okay, but as a rule of thumb, less than 6 hours is too little. Okay, less than 6 hours is too little. 8 hours on average is a good amount of time to sleep. Okay, you might need 9, you might need 10. Okay, you might be fine with 6, but I mean, again, that is based on your needs. I've noticed that older people, over 50, upwards, 60, 70, they start to sleep less and less. Okay, and they feel that they need less and less sleep, right? So even if that is the case, right, less than 6 hours is still too little. So sleep enough, guys. Part of sleeping enough is having a healthy routine. Okay, the best of routines, if possible, if you don't have a night shift job, is to be awake during the day and sleep at night. Again, that is scientifically proven that the night sleep is much better than the day sleep. People who sleep during the day perpetually and are awake at night perpetually suffer various health problems in the long run. Okay, this is also borne out obviously for us in the Quran, which says that God created the day for work and the night for rest. Okay, so this is sort of the best strategy for sleeping, if it's possible for you to do that. Another important strategy for sleeping is to have a scheduled lifestyle, meaning you get up more or less at the same time every morning, you go sleep more or less at the same time every night. Okay, and you allow your body to get into that biorhythm. Okay, if you do that, you will not have trouble sleeping, you will not have trouble waking up, or at least for the most part you won't have trouble waking up. Okay, people always tend to have problems waking up, right? So that is another front to sort of help mitigate the problems of health. Okay, and to improve your immunity is sleep enough. Okay, the next focus after eating and sleeping should be making sure that you get enough exercise. Okay, as we know, a lot of diseases, a lot of health issues is centered around cardiovascular problems, especially of late. Okay, cardiovascular, heart, air, oxygen. Okay, breathing, circulation, and so on. To that end, it is medically recommended that you have at least 20 minutes of fairly vigorous exercise a day. Okay, I would to that end recommend that if you live in an apartment building and you're saying to yourself, I don't really have that much time to exercise, well, try taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Okay, that should at least give you 2 or 3 minutes of vigorous exercise. Try running up the stairs even if you can. Okay, try walking to the places you visit in your immediate vicinity. So if you usually get in the car to go to the grocery store down the road, which is just 2 or 3 kilometers or 2 or 3 miles, try now and again walking instead of driving. So that's one way also to make sure you get exercise, or actually work it into your schedule. Okay, set time aside to go for a good walk every day or a good run every day. Okay, if you are running, 20 minutes is enough, because that's fairly vigorous and it's good enough to sort of regulate your heart and your oxygen and your blood circulation. But if you are walking, you should probably try to get a bit more walking in than 20 minutes. Okay, maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes of walking, but then work it into a schedule. Okay, also, because vitamin D is a very important part of health, many people being indoors a lot lack sufficient vitamin D. Try to get this walk in during sunlight, during daylight hours, so that you also get vitamin D. Okay, if for some reason your lifestyle doesn't afford you to get enough vitamin D, then supplement it with vitamin D capsule, or any supplementation. Okay, that being for exercise. Guys, remember that during exercise, still observe social distancing, and wear your mask when coming near to anyone. There's no need really. I mean, it depends on the regulations in the country that you live. Okay, but if the country permits that you not wear a mask while you are walking alone outside, then probably it's better not to wear the mask, because you need to be able to breathe properly, right? But if the country regulations is that you must wear the mask at all times, regardless if you are alone outside, for example, and there's no one around you, then of course you have to obey the rules of the country and wear the mask. Okay. So that is for the exercise. And then on the front of work, play, stress, socialization, those are the other aspects we need to focus on. The call to prayer is being called here. So let me pause and then continue in a moment. Okay, guys, let us continue now, since the prayer has ended. We were talking about exercise. Okay, in addition to looking after your cardiovascular health, it's also important to do some strength training. Okay, strength training is very important for a healthy body. It doesn't have to be with weights. It doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. Just doing some squats and sit-ups and push-ups and body weight exercises can go a long way in keeping your muscles healthy. So you can incorporate that also into your exercise routine, and do make it a routine. Okay, schedule some time in your life for daily exercise. Okay, you can do it 3 times a week maybe. If you don't want to do it daily, you can do it most days, but do schedule some time in for exercise. So that is one of my New Year's resolutions also, is to continue with my strength training routine. Okay, so we covered eating, we covered sleeping, we covered exercise. But there's one other very, very important factor in good health, and that is managing work stress and having a balance between work and play. Okay, very important. So work stress is one of the major causes of illnesses, general life stress, but also work stress. Okay, work stress has a sort of unique, a very unique and culpable role in killing people, essentially, because work is very critical in our lives. It's the way in which we earn our livelihood to feed our families, to feed ourselves, to look after ourselves, to pay our rent, etc. So because work has played such a crucial role in our lives, it also potentially it also plays a critical role in stress and in disease, incidentally, and especially if you work in a toxic environment, in an environment that you know compounds the stress, like compound interest in a sense, right? It sort of amplifies the stress because of personality conflicts, egotism, uh, and general, dog-headedness perhaps of your managers or your bosses and so on and so forth. So those things can also be very damaging to your health. And so the way to manage those types of stresses is very complex, in fact, and not something I can just talk about in 5 minutes. But in short, to try to sort of shorten this discussion around, I could go on and on about work stress, but to try to shorten this discussion, what I can tell you that has helped me with work stress is to remind myself constantly that I work to live, and I don't live to work. Okay, I work to live, and I don't live to work. So if you have a problem with, for example, working in an environment where you are being micromanaged, where you are not able to find true expression in the gifts and talents that you have, and you're not able to successfully contribute to your job in a meaningful way, for example, and you're really only using like 10 or 15% of your abilities, then the way around that is to just stop focusing on work. I'm sorry to put it that way, bluntly. Stop focusing on work. Do the 10 or 15% job that is being required from you and from your managers and those that are trying to micromanage you, and simply don't focus on work anymore. Just do the job. Tick the boxes, do the job. Collect your salary, go home, and live your life for the things that you actually want to do, okay? Because you are not going to find fulfillment in that type of job, okay? Unless you want to have an authentic experience at work and you want to feel deeply fulfilled in the job that you are doing, since you spend most of your life at work anyway, or most of us anyway. If that is the case, you have to resign from that job and find another job. And because we live in a world where jobs are far and few between at the moment, you likely can't just leave your job, okay? Because alternatives are quite difficult in the world that we are moving towards and the world that we are in. If you are compelled by the circumstances you find yourself in to have to suck it in and keep your job, that is really where most of your stress is going to come from, because you are deeply unhappy in your job, and yet you are having to do it every single day, or go there every single day and deal with those toxic people, deal with toxic management, deal with people who operate at a very low primate-like vibration of really exalting at the little bit of authority they have and then trying to abuse it. That's often the case in toxic work environments. You needing to obviously kowtow because they want you to prostrate yourself towards them, you need to obviously try to get out of that environment. But until you can't get out of that environment, the main thing is just simply not to focus on it, okay? Remind yourself that you do not live to work, but you work to live. That's all I can say. Okay, there's a lot more I can say about this topic, but that's one way to combat your work stress. Okay, just don't focus on it. Don't focus on work. Focus on other things that you are doing. And then managing work play, resolve to work at work. Okay, one of the ways in which I manage my work play, sort of the equation, is that I work at work and I play at home. Okay, so I go to work, at work I work. Okay, I don't take needless and unnecessary breaks if I can help it. I try to finish whatever needs to be done, and then I go home. I do the things I like doing when I go home. Okay, I go to gym. I enjoy myself in the gym. I read the books I want to read. I study. I'm doing an MBA at the moment. I study. I do the things I like doing at home. Okay, and I switch off my work phone, and I don't allow anyone from work to call me or bother me or disturb me or make me work at home. Okay, because in some work environments there are just no boundaries. They don't know where personal space starts and where work stops. They don't know. Okay, and if you don't enforce boundaries, personal boundaries, they will not respect it. They will expect you to work at home, during the night, at midnight, at work, and your whole life will be consumed with work, and then you will no longer work to live. You will live to work. Okay, and that is called slavery. So I refuse to do that. I use my work time wisely to do as much work as I can get done, and I leave my work at work. So that's one way to manage your work play time. Okay, because you are also less productive if you are constantly drained, if you are tired, and if you are stressed. Okay, any smart management would know that. They would not. They would want you at your best, and realize that to have 4 hours of productive labor is better than having 10 hours of unproductive or less than efficient workmanship. Okay, so the world of management, fortunately, is evolving. We are developing a less slave-driven economy, hopefully, and a more specialized economy where specialization will become more valued than feeling secure that you have any X amount of slaves under you. Okay, and that slave thing is usually just an egotistical thing anyway, because a lot of slave labor is wasted through needless work, because simply people can't afford to waste their slaves, right? I mean, those are in economies that still have slavery, okay? But in sort of Western economies where they no longer have slavery, the similar things abound, okay? But you, as the average person with a job, whether you're working in a call center like at Amazon or something like that, you have to make the most of your life and with what you can do to manage your work play sort of equation. And you need to make sure that you do have enough time to unwind, to relax, to do the things you enjoy doing, because your life is not about your job. And so just try to remember that. Okay, that's I think sums it up. Okay, and then lastly, and probably most importantly, is that when we come to the big questions of life, and we all reach a point where we have some sort of existential crisis, where we wonder why we are here, and I mean, there are simple answers to the question, and those simple answers might be profound, but they might not resonate with everyone. Okay, I would tell you that emphatically we are here to serve and worship God. That is like the simple answer. That is profound, it is deep, but it may not resonate with everyone. And I think everyone needs to take time out, basically, of life to ponder the existential questions, to go through these existential crises that we do go through at times, okay? And so here is where we come to the last factor of health, and that is religion, spirituality, your relationship with God, okay? And while in reality, everyone has a relationship with God, and everyone's relationship with God involves their lives in entirety. Okay, so your life is always about your relationship with God, whether you know it or not, whether you believe or not. That's just how it is. But you need time aside to contemplate on your relationship with God, whether it is the time aside that you take to do your 5 daily prayers. As Muslim people, that's what we do. But then it should be done conscientiously, not automatically, not on autopilot, because that can happen with a routine of praying 5 times a day. You could do it in a way that is without being present, fully present in the prayer. Okay, then the prayer doesn't sort of give you all the benefits, or as much benefit as you could derive from it, okay? Because the act of praying is an immensely spiritual act, and without the necessary presence in the prayer, right? The concentration in the prayer, the interaction in the prayer that you enjoy with God, you will not it will not be your stepping out of the world for those brief moments that is so needed in life, okay? So that needs to be done in that way. Now, if you are not Muslim, there are things in various religious traditions. If you are Christian, for example, you also have prayer, right? But if you are sort of non-affiliated to an organized religion, as so many people tend to go these days, there are meditation techniques you could use to achieve similar ends, I would imagine, okay? I say again, I would imagine, because I've never been outside of the Islamic tradition, so I don't really, aside from what I read and what I've studied regarding other religions and their traditions, I know from what people have said. I've not experienced it, okay? I've only ever experienced Islam. So, but I do know that some sort of time put aside for contemplation, is very good. Even if it takes the format of when you take that walk, you look around you at the universe and you tell yourself that I'm deeply grateful for being here. I'm deeply grateful for being able to breathe. I'm deeply grateful for being able to see. I'm deeply grateful for all that abounds around me, and you do that every day, that is a very, very beneficial exercise, because it grounds you spiritually, and we need to be grounded spiritually, because we are not just merely physical beings, but we are spiritual beings also. And while we go at great lengths to look after our physical realities, we tend to skimp on the spiritual reality, which is the greater reality, in fact, okay? Which is the reality that encompasses the physical reality. It is actually the reality, okay? So a very, very important part of health is being grounded spiritually, do it via the spiritual tradition that you are familiar with. If you are not familiar with a spiritual tradition, a religion, you are welcome to look into to Islam. I'm saying Islam because that's the one I know. And that's the one I find to benefit me tremendously. So I'm not evangelical, sort of, but I'm just, it's something you can look into. And then finally, with all these coming together, in your equation of health, I think there's one I missed, okay, which probably should have been the second last one, and that is your relationships, your interpersonal relationships with your loved ones, okay? The nature of relationships is that people whom you enjoy relationships with will always have a right over some of your time, at least, okay? So make sure that you do spend time with your loved ones.